Welcome to Sports Guy Talking. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to debate about the Dejounte Murray trade that happened between the Spurs and the Hawks. And by the way, wait till the end of the video because I have an announcement to make to you guys. Alright, so that's that. Anyways, back on topic, Dejounte Murray is certainly an interesting player to analyze as he is coming off of a all-star season for the Spurs. Most people would probably say that they were surprised that a Dejounte Murray trade happened. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So, here it is. Who won the Dejounte Murray trade? Alright, so the trade had the Spurs receiving Danilo Gallinari, a 2023 first-round pick. That's the Hornets' first-round pick to be specific. It's been in Charlotte. It's been in New York, and then it went to Atlanta. Now it's moving to the Spurs. I would have to assume that it's a protected pick. Probably top 16 protection picks as far as I'm concerned, just because of what's been happening with that first-round pick, as far as I'm concerned, involving those trades. Then there's the 2025 first-round pick. It's unprotected. That means that the Spurs, they're going to get that pick no matter what. Then a 2026 pick swap. The Spurs will probably end up getting the higher pick out of that one, or the Hawks, depending how that situation is going to play out. And then the 2027 first-round pick, that is unprotected. So that means they could land that pick no matter where that pick lands up. So that's going to be the Spurs picks in terms of what they're going to be getting in return. Well, the Hawks, they get Dejounte Murray. In other words, here's the short way of saying that the Spurs are getting Danilo Gallinari, 3 first-round picks, and they get to swap first-round picks in exchange for Dejounte Murray. Alright, so let's go ahead and ask ourselves this question. Did the Spurs get enough for Dejounte Murray? And the answer to that question is obviously no. That's not even close to enough. This was a horrible trade by the San Antonio Spurs. And look, I understand why some people are saying, oh, this is a good trade for the Spurs. No, it's not. It's a terrible trade for the San Antonio Spurs because Dejounte Murray is a 25-year-old all-star player that can get better. Dejounte Murray is 6'4", 180 pounds, but he has a 6'10" wingspan. Dejounte Murray is one of the best perimeter defenders in all of basketball. In a league where you're always looking for defenders, particularly amongst the guard positions because they're really difficult to find, Dejounte Murray, man, this guy's wingspan is so good, and he's one of the best point guards when it comes to stealing the basketball. He led the NBA in steals with 2 steals per game. Do you understand how good that is? Dejounte Murray finished second in Most Improved Player of the Year award. He only finished behind Ja Morant. Alright, so if you're in Ja Morant's company, you're pretty good. Look, Ja Morant's just coming off of a season where he averaged 21.1 points per game. He had 9.2 assists per game, and he had 8.3 rebounds per game. And he shot pretty well from the field, 46.2% from the field. Now look, 3-point shooting, look, I'm not going to pretend that it's great because it's not great. 32.7%, but you know what? That's acceptable. And he shot about 79% of his free throws, so that's pretty good if you ask me. With Dejounte Murray. Dejounte Murray is a good player. He made an all-star appearance. He didn't do that for no reason at all. He was a legitimate all-star player that's going to be entering his prime. He's just 25 years old. And mind you, his contract wasn't even a bad contract at all. In fact, you could even say his contract is a bargain because Dejounte Murray, he's only going to be making $16.5 million this year. And then the year after that, he's only going to be making $17.7 million the following year. That is a steal if you ask me. I mean, come on. He's an all-star player that's making under $20 million in a league where players are getting max deals when they're not even making all-star appearances. So the fact that this guy is making under $20 million and is making an all-star appearance, that's already pretty good. So I don't understand why the Spurs have to move off of him. And I know some people are going to say, oh, look, the Spurs, they're going to tank for Victor now. Victor is a prospect in the 2023 NBA draft. He's a generational talent. And look, I like the guy a lot. I think he's going to be a future superstar in the making. But to risk it for all of that, for that to happen, I just cannot see how that can happen because the lottery odds are now flattened. It's harder than ever to get the number 1 overall pick in a lottery draft. All right. So even if the Spurs finish, like, let's just say hypothetically, even though they won't, let's say if they finish with like 8 wins for like an example, and everybody else wins like 20-something games, the Spurs only have a 14% chance of getting that number 1 overall pick. They're deadlocked at 14% no matter what if they finish with the worst record in all of basketball. Now, they do this to prevent people from tanking, which I understand 100%. But the Spurs, they're willing to, if they land Victor and they end up getting that superstar, man, okay, I could understand that trade. But if they don't get him, they just did this trade for nothing. Dejounte Murray could have legitimately been a franchise cornerstone piece that they could have built around. Dejounte Murray is a very good basketball player. So for that front, the Spurs, They already messed up giving up an all-star player. And let's talk about what they get in return. I mean, come on. The 2026 and 2027 picks. I mean, how am I supposed to evaluate that? That's so far down the line. By the time 2026 or 2027 comes along, I'm probably going to be a famous YouTuber. Okay, just kidding. Maybe. Maybe I'm just kidding about that. But the point is, you cannot evaluate those picks. Those picks are too far down the line. You don't know what could happen with that. And as for the 2025 first round pick, okay, that's actually somewhat unpredictable as well, but okay, you can actually project a little bit. I would assume that the Hawks would be contenders by then, and you'll see why I'm saying that. But 2025, that first round pick, even though it's unprotected, I don't think it holds as much value as what some Spurs fans are making it sound like. And that 2023 first round pick, I mean, it's a protected pick, so who knows what you could do with that. So basically, there's a lot of question marks. Although 3 first-round picks sounds good on the surface, there's a lot of question marks involving those picks. And those picks might not necessarily impact the Spurs immediately. And as for Danilo Gallinari, look, he's a decent NBA player, but he's not a needle mover. He's not going to make the Spurs a better basketball team. And for the people that are saying that the Spurs can get significantly worse and tank, I'm not sure they could get significantly worse. I mean, this Spurs team right now still could be better than the Kings. They could still be better than the Rockets, could be still better than the Thunder. I mean, come on, the Spurs team with Popovich. Look, as long as Greg Popovich is the coach, that team is not going to be finishing lower than 12th in the Western Conference. All right, that's just not going to happen. Popovich is too good of a coach to let that happen. He would have to deliberately lose games and try losing games really hard in order for the Spurs to be a really bad basketball team. They would, like, Popovich, he's so good of a coach that the worst roster in NBA history, Popovich could win 25, 30 games with. He's that good of a coach more often than not. So for me, to risk it all for Victor, a draft prospect in 2023, yeah, he's a great player. He's going to be a future great player. But for the Spurs to try to attempt to do that, man, that's just really risky. If they can manage to get him, okay, they found the franchise cornerstone, real good for them. But the odds of that happening, it's just not going to happen. So for me, I already think this trade is bad for the Spurs. Now let me go ahead and get to the Hawks. I think this is an awesome trade for the Atlanta Hawks. Are you kidding me? This is the perfect fit for Trae Young. All right, because Trae Young is an undersized guard, but he can score the ball, he can assist the ball, and he just does everything great on the offensive end of the floor, except for maybe efficiency. But that's going to come along. He can stretch the floor from 30 feet, from 35 feet. He could shoot it all over the court. And now he's going to have a backcourt mate that's excellent at defense, and that's exactly what Dejounte Murray is. Dejounte Murray, he has a long wingspan. He's really tall for a guard, and you got one guy that's really good at defense. You got another guy that's really great on offense. And they would cancel out each other's weaknesses. I mean, Dejounte Murray, he's not great from the three-point line, but that doesn't matter because Trae Young is great in terms of stretching out from the three-point line. And Trae Young's not a good defender, but that's all right because Dejounte Murray is a great defender. So they cover each other's weaknesses pretty well, and they're well-rounded. I love this trade for the Atlanta Hawks. Are you kidding me? And to be able to dump the Danilo Gallinari contract, that's pretty good. And as for the first-round picks, I mean, come on, they're so far down the line that who really cares? And even when we do care, I don't think those picks are going to be as valuable as what those people are making it sound like because the Hawks are going to be contenders in the Eastern Conference for years to come. This is the perfect backcourt that you could have constructed for Trae Young. Dejounte Murray is a textbook definition of what you need as your backcourt shooting mate for Trae Young. It's literally perfect. And you look at the Eastern Conference next year, I think the Atlanta Hawks legitimately could be at worst the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. I really like the team that they got. They're only going to be worse than the Celtics. They're only going to be worse than the Heat. They're only going to be worse than the Bucks. And they're probably going to be worse than the 76ers. But other than that, it's wide open. They could legitimately get the 5th seed. A team with Trae Young and Dejounte Murray as their backcourt duel. That's a really good backcourt duel to have. And Clint Capella is pretty good too as a center. So the Atlanta Hawks, they got their version of the big three. I like that combination. The Atlanta Hawks are set up for success. Nate McMillan, he's also a defensive-minded coach. Dejounte Murray, he's also a defensive-minded player, but he can also score points on the offensive end of the floor. This is just perfect for the Atlanta Hawks. And that was their dream chip trade. They didn't even have to give up John Collins in that deal either. So that's pretty good for them as well. So I'm pretty impressed with what the Atlanta Hawks were able to do. I'm giving the Atlanta Hawks an A for the trade. The only reason they don't get an A+ is just because I don't know what's going to happen with those 3 first-round picks. Maybe those 3 first-round picks end up becoming more valuable than what I'm anticipating. But still, I still think it's a really good trade. Dejounte Murray is the perfect backcourt partner for Trae Young. And he also injects life on the defensive end of the floor. And the Hawks are also going to be an improved team in the Eastern Conference, so that's an excellent trade for the Hawks. As for the Spurs, I'm giving them as at a D at the moment, though that could change to maybe a C or even a B, depending on where they land in the 2023 NBA draft, or if they're going to end up getting Victor. So that's kind of dependent on me. I was just kind of really confused with that because Dejounte Murray is a pretty good player that's on a bargain contract. And the fact that he's 25 years old and he's on the trade market, that just doesn't happen often at all. So I just found that kind of bewildering for the Spurs. So that's why I'm going to give it a D. So that is why the Hawks easily won the Dejounte Murray trade as the Spurs lost this trade badly. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking. Speaking of that, Sports Guy Talking, the YouTube channel, has reached over 1,000 subs, or should I rather say it reached the 1K subs milestone. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel. It means a lot to me. 1K sub reward video could be coming out sooner rather than later. I'm still coming up with some ideas. I might even ask you guys later today on my Instagram. So you guys know where to follow me on Instagram. I'll address that a little bit later in the video. But yeah, the point is, thank you guys so much for subscribing. I could not be in this position without y'all. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to see you guys subscribe and to be watching these videos because that means that the channel is doing well. It means that you guys really care about the content that I'm pouring out. That means you guys really care about what my guests are having to say. So whenever I see that happen, I'm very thankful for that. All right, if you haven't yet, please like the video and go ahead and comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in a future video. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Dustin Tran and at Sports Guy Talking. By the way, that's where the polls are going to be in terms of what you guys want for your 1K subs reward. Also, go follow me on Twitter at Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.